The circle of life begins with the birth of a child, and that journey begins with pregnancy. People who are pregnant or who have had a baby know their bodies and know when something does not feel right. When they speak, we must listen. Hear her. Learn more at cdc.gov/hearher/AIAN.
Looking to buy your first car or home? Understanding your FICO score is key to achieving your life goals. Knowing your FICO scores helps you apply for loans with confidence and avoid surprises. With MyFICO, you get access to your FICO score, credit reports, 24/7 monitoring, and alerts on the go. Take the mystery out of your score and get your FICO score for free today. Visit myfico.com/free and discover the score lenders use most.
Welcome back to Right on Four Corners. I'm your host, DelSheree Gladden. I'm a USA Today bestselling author with over 30 published novels and a 9th grade English teacher. And on this week's episode, I am going to be talking to a former Farmington area resident, but still a New Mexico-based author, Lynn A. Blackwood, about his newest book, Estimated Time of Arrival. Lynn, go ahead and introduce yourself.
It's great to be with you. And yeah, I'm originally from Kirtland. 1976 graduate of Kirtland Central, and all three of my kiddos are Farmington Scorpions. Sorry, PD fans, but they're Zach Blackwood, Cameron Blackwood, and Kaylin Blackwood. We've been a Four Corners family up until the last 10 years. And I currently live in Las Cruces, New Mexico. And so, yeah, I'm excited to talk about this new book. This is the fourth that I've written. And it is just the uniqueness about how this came about and what it's about that I think a lot of your listeners will find really compelling and it inspire them to want to grab a copy and want to read it.
With that intro, tell us a little bit about the concept for the book, and then we'll kind of bounce from there into the history and everything that led to that. But first off, just tell us a little bit about what is Estimated Time of Arrival.
It's a self-help guide. It's only 80 pages. And it's written to those of us that haven't arrived at their life's destination as of yet. We're stuck, or we've been stuck by something that's happened in our life, and we just don't know how to get going again. And we just kind of go for our daily activity, and yet there's something really inside based upon our skill set and who we are and our background that compels us to want to be more, but we just don't know how to get there. So this book is going to nudge you for 85 pages to get going again and to really be happy. Because a lot of people that are stuck aren't happy because they're just miserable. They know they want to be more, want to do more, and they grew up wanting to be something and they're just not. And I'll tell you kind of a backstory of how it came about, but that's kind of the Reader's Digest version of it. It's just a self-help guide, and it has a nautical theme where it's going to take you on a journey of me finding 80 pages worth of just trying to nudge you back into your dream and back into your passion.
Well, and I think some lucky people really early on know exactly what they want to do and how they're going to get there, and they have it all planned out. But even for those who have that plan, it often doesn't go quite like we're expecting.
Yeah. How this really came about, I was moving my middle daughter, Cameron, from Fort Myers to Atlanta. And we get to Atlanta and we're moving her into her apartment. And so for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we're eating out breakfast, lunch, and dinner as we're getting her apartment all furnished and getting her caught up. And we kept meeting these waiters and waitresses that had originally started out in med school to be doctors, nurses, architects, real estate agents. They wanted to be something else, and yet they're waiting tables. And they're waiting tables at 2 or 3 places. They have 3 or 4 jobs, and they're beautiful people. And we just kept seeing in this, we'd finish a meal and we're like, there's another beautiful person that's just stuck. So Thursday morning, we're at breakfast, and my daughter Cameron, she said, "Dad, God spoke to me this morning." And I'm like, well, okay. I'm fixing to go into dad mode and talk to her about what God spoke to her about. And she goes, "Oh, no, it's not about me. It's about you." And I took a big gulp, and I'm like, well, what did he say? Because I don't even know what's getting ready to come out of her mouth. And she said, "God said you need to do something about these waiters and waitresses we've met." And I'm like, "Do what, baby? What am I supposed to do?" She's referring to the previous 3 books that I've written. One is on parenting, the other one's on divorce from a man's perspective, and then another one's on sales. And she said, Dad, you're always giving one or all 3 of your books to people that you meet. But she said, Dad, you have nothing to hand these people we've met these last 4 days. And God said, you need to get busy and write something that you could hand to these waiters and waitresses or anybody else that's stuck. And I'm like, well, okay. And then she's like, okay, what do you want to have for breakfast? And I'm like, you dropped this on me, and now you want to know what I want for breakfast? I'm like, I'm just swimming over here because you've laid this heavy thing on me. It took about a week and a half when I got back to Las Cruces, and I knew exactly. I knew what I needed to do. And from August to January, I've been writing, and it's only 85 pages, but really when you're stuck, you don't need 300 pages to tell you're stuck. And you don't need 300 pages to tell you how to get unstuck. You just need someone to nudge you, and then you yourself need to figure it out. It's not very long, but it's very powerful. It says, and not every page is going to just stop you in your tracks, but the ones that do, that's where you've got to stop it and pay attention. So that's kind of how it came about. It's just really about some forgotten people that no one's addressing. That I know that a lot of us are kind of stuck and get in the doldrum or get the blues, and we just kind of go from day to day, and we've just kind of lost track of who we wanted to be and what we're gifted to do and what we do best and what makes us happy.
All of your books are independent of each other to be read depending on what you're looking for.
Correct.
But what you write comes from personal experience, and you build on that. And in the book, you talk about some of the challenges you went through that kind of got you into that stuck position. Tell us a little bit about some of those experiences that kind of led to that stuck position for you, and then we'll kind of go in from there into taking those next steps.
As I said, it's a nautical-themed book. Some of the chapters are voyage, map, storms, tsunami, anchor, rudder, different things like that. So when I talk about shipwrecked, I had probably 5 or 6 opportunities in my life to stop and just say, okay, I'm done. I can't overcome this. And the first one was at age 47. My wife decided she didn't want to be married anymore. So here I am, divorced, a single father. And then, so that's 2 hard things after 18 years of marriage, 3 kids. And then all of a sudden I had to go through bankruptcy because I was paying for everything, most everything. And so there's divorce, single father, bankruptcy. Then I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer and had to have surgery for that. So I survived, and now I'm cancer-free. Then I had to have a 360 spinal fusion surgery. My back had some degenerative things happen to it from a back injury that happened when I was 18 and 19. And so I was only able to walk like 14 steps, and then I just have to sit down. So if I didn't have this surgery, I didn't know if I would be committed to a wheelchair the rest of my life. And so I had that surgery. And then 2 years ago, the company I was working for decided they didn't need me anymore. At the ripe old age of 64, I got fired. So I tell the readers, it's like anywhere along this life of yours, you can just give up if you want. But I find that most people are not happy. There's more in them, that there's something that they wanted to be, or they still want to be, or something they haven't achieved, but something has got them stopped or stuck. And I'm grateful to have 3 wonderful kids. I have 2 sisters that have not allowed me to be stuck. And when they've had the calamity in their lives, that we've just rallied to each other. And then I had some very close friends and some pastors in my life. So you just have to have people in your life that won't let you get stuck and will be there as a life raft to kind of rescue you and help you get going again. I use the term drift. When a ship stops going forward, it starts to drift. And a lot of times, if you grab your favorite floating device and you're playing in the beach, if you get out off of the shoreline and if you don't do anything, you're going to find yourself 500 yards down the shore because you're drifting. And a lot of people don't know that they're drifting. And then they get offended when you tell them, it looks like you're not where you want to be and you're not doing anything about it. So you're just kind of drifting. And a lot of times people who are drifting don't like to be told that they're drifting. And I know there was times in my life when I was hurting so bad that I didn't want any help. But when you need to be rescued, help is just what you need. So that's a lot of what you'll find in the book is I go through the chapter called Shipwrecked, and I go through all of those 5 times that I could have potentially been stuck and what happened and how I found the courage to keep going and the help and to overcome it. And it's something that happened to me, but it's not something that's going to define me and define the rest of my life. And a lot of times people take those things that happen to them and they feel like that they're marked for life or that they've got a label. Well, it happened to you. It's not who you are. Who you are is greater on the inside than the things that happen to you in your life.
I think that can be such a hard differentiation to make as the individual. I see with a lot of my students, I've got such a wide range of those who are hyper motivated and focused and they want every last point that they can get. And then you have these others who even, at 14, 15 years old have already gotten into this mindset of, I can't really do anything better than this. This is just how life is. I'm not going to try. I don't really see the point of doing any of this. And they're already kind of in that stuck position of just thinking, there's nothing there for me. There's no options. But I think I guess I shouldn't say never, but that is the majority of the time not true. And that there are options and there is support out there. And it's really hard to recognize sometimes and to see those people who want to help, to accept it and to realize that, yeah, you can get out of whatever place you're in your life and you can start moving forward in some direction. And while your book isn't a program for people to follow, because that's so individual what each person needs in their life to move forward, but talk about how your book and your advice for someone who just doesn't see the help and the opportunities and the options that they have and how we can kind of start getting out of that mindset and start recognizing some of what's out there for us.
You made just the most beautiful point, and thank you for saying that, because a lot of us have a very poor self-image. We just see our struggles, and that's all we see. We see everything we can't do. It's the other people in our lives who really look at you and go, oh, no, don't think that way. For example, was my mother. In first and second grade, I was a straight A student. I went to third grade and struggled with a teacher. And we went to parent-teacher conference back in the day, and my mother just marched right in there, and she goes, I want to know what's on. He was an A student, first grade, second grade, and now he's a C student. And the teacher said, I thought it was just par for the course. And I saw the hair come up on my mother's neck, and she said, this is not par for the course for him. And I got home, and my mother says, this is unacceptable. You're smarter than this. She starts speaking life into me. And I kind of turned it around. And then we get back in college. And my first 2 years at San Juan College, I'm on academic warning because I kind of just fell back into I just quit seeing myself and quit taking a lot of joy into who Lynn was and what Lynn enjoyed and what Lynn's passion was. And I came down to New Mexico State, and I had a friend that was involved with Campus Crusade for Christ, and I got into a Bible study. And when I really got connected with that, I was a Crimson Scholar. You just have to have people in your life to speak life and blessings into you and to tell you what they see. You'll be very shocked sometimes that people will say things, I see this in you. And you're like, really? You do? Because we've listened to all the internal lies that we tell ourselves that aren't true. They're just stories of submission and settling and just, I don't want to make any waves and I'll just take this easy path that just doesn't have any bumps along the way. If you're going to get anywhere in life, you're going to have to take some risk and you're going to have to try some things and you have to fail a few times. And sometimes failure, it's been painful, so we just like, well, if I don't want to have any more pain, then I just won't try so I won't fail. And that doesn't produce a very exciting life. And there's not too many people that go to Baskin Robbins just to get vanilla ice cream. They want the other flavors. And that's kind of what I'm saying is like, if vanilla is all you want and vanilla is all you like, great. Then you've got the life you want. But if you're a rocky road type of person, then connect with that desire and then go live your life. And the other thing I would say is there's a lot of waiters and waitresses, and there's some that's what they're called to do, but a lot of them are so frustrated being a waiter or waitresses, and they're serving tables of very successful people and taking their Visa card, and they're like, I wish that was me. I wish I was the one sitting there giving my Visa card and paying for a nice meal, and here I am serving these people I want to be. They feel like it's at 30, it's too late. At 40, it's too late. At 50, it's too late. It's never too late. In fact, I walked into church 2 weeks ago, and the lady goes, I read your first 2 chapters of your book, and it made me cry. And I'm like, oh, no. She said, I just realized that here I am. I'm 62, and I'm stuck. And your book just kind of shook me a little bit. And she said, I'm just going to be more intentional about my life. And I'm like, well, hang on for the other chapters, because you're going to get a good dose of how I'm going to help you. But it was just like, I'm getting so much response from people going, wow, did that shake me up in a good way?
I think you never know where that moment of, being shaken up, as you described, where that's going to come from, and just keeping that open mindset. So you're absolutely right. It's never too late to start making whatever changes you need to make in your life to find a happier position, a more stable position, whatever it is that you're seeking in your life. There are steps that you can take to get closer to that. And I think as people start taking even those little teeny tiny steps of, like your friend said, just being more intentional in what you're doing, it starts building those habits which build on each other over time and really can make a big difference over the course of things.
This life that we live isn't meant to be lived alone. And you've got a lot of single people and single mothers and single fathers who've had a lot of hurt in their life. And it's like a lot of them have just shut down. And you just need to have people in your life that are positive and that will speak life into you and that will love you and be a friend to you. And I talk about the word scallywag in one of the chapters. You need to get the scallywags off your ship. You need to get the negative and critical people out of your life and off your boat, because you're never going to get anywhere with these people taking up your time and your resources. You're never going to get to where you want to end up with these horrible people in your life and on your boat. You've got to make a decision if you want to get there. You want to get further faster, then you've got to have the right people in your life. It doesn't mean a lot of these people are bad people. They're just not for you, because they're miserable, so they want you to be miserable. And miserable people love to have more miserable people to be friends with. And some of them just come looking to stir up drama in your life. And you've just really got to rid your life of these people that they're just leeches on the bottom of the hull of the boat. They want to hang around, and you can't afford them in your life. You just can't. Now, I know that may sound harsh or cruel, but it all depends on, do you really want to get to where you're going? And if you have a bunch of baggage in your car or on your boat, so to speak, with a nautical theme, you've got to throw it overboard. You can't live your life with all this negativity. And it comes down to, you want to keep these negative friends or you want to fulfill your destiny? Which is it? Just make your choice. There's going to be some hard decisions, but a lot of us have got too much negativity and hanging around negative people that they haven't got to their destination yet, and they want to make sure that you don't get to yours either. And you just got to grow up and get these people out of your life.
Well, I think if you ever want to see that life lesson in action, go teach high school. I have some very clear examples of students where it's like the second they started dating that one person, or you see them in the hall with some of the other kids, and it's like, oh, okay, I can see why you guys are drawn together. And their friend groups and their associates really impact their overall success. They get distracted from doing what they need to do to be successful in their classes. They get into situations they shouldn't get into, and that puts in jeopardy sports.
This Mother's Day, J.A. Jewelers is making it easy to show Mom the appreciation and love she deserves. J.A. Jewelers is having a huge Mother's Day sale with prices to fit any budget and offering a spring bouquet of flowers with every $99 jewelry purchase while supplies last. Make this Mother's Day one she won't forget with stunning jewelry at affordable prices from J.A. Jewelers. Shop the sale now at jajewels.com or in store at J.A. Jewelers, 2909 East 20th Street in Farmington.
After an accident, don't risk your future without first calling Keller & Keller.
They had the resources and experience to go after all the money I deserved.
All the money you are entitled to.
I got way more than I was told I'd get.
Great service, great settlement.
Call Keller & Keller for a confidential and free consultation.
Because a good lawyer shouldn't cost you more. They should get you more.
Call 1-800-2-KELLER. Keller & Keller. Right now.
1-800-2-KELLER.
Or academics or after school type of things. And you see that with these young kids, and you just want to be like, come on.
You want to shake them.
Be smarter than this. You can do all the things you want to do, but you got to, not get involved in all of this questionable stuff. And, adults do it too. We absolutely do.
I was about to say, you 20 and 30 and 40 and 50-year-old, we're guilty of the same thing. And Every plane or every ship that sets sail, before they leave the dock or before they leave the airport, they always have enough fuel and they have everything they need loaded and stowed to make the journey. And when you've got both those people are, if you don't have a ticket, you don't get on. And you've got to be just like the pilot or the captain of those ships. If you're not going where I'm going, you can't get on. I mean, maybe we think about some people, it's like, you don't get to go where I'm going. You can be my friend, but you can't go with me because I'll never get there. If your negativity and you're complaining and griping about everything, I just can't get to where I'm going with you in my life. And you just have to make some of these decisions. The chapter that's called Estimated, that's kind of the namesake of the book, is just talked about when a captain or the pilot of an airplane, before they depart, they have to have a flight plan or a voyage plan, and they turn that in. That means if I'm flying from El Paso to Atlanta, I have a flight plan, and I'll get to Atlanta at 2 p.m. Well, if that plane, if it's 2 p.m. and it hasn't got there, people are starting to ask questions, where are they? And so I just tell people, then they start looking for the plane, because it hasn't arrived on time. And I say to the reader, you're obviously reading this book because you haven't arrived yet. Is anybody looking for you? Do you have these people in your life that are looking for you because you haven't arrived on time? And I had my two sisters that were always looking for me, looking out for me. And if you don't have anybody, you've got to surround yourself with those kind of people. Maybe you need a new set of friends, just people that will generally be concerned and would share your passion and your life's outcome to where you can build some accountability with some people. Like I've got a trainer that a lot of times I don't want to go lift weights, but I go because of him. I got to show up because if it was me just wanting to go to the gym, I'd never go unless I had a trainer, because now I've built in some accountability into my life. And we have to do that with a lot of our life's journey. You've got to build in some accountability. When you don't have the energy and you don't have the motivation, there's somebody you can call. There's somebody that can check on you and says, I know you were wanting to do this. How are you doing? And accountability is a great thing, because when you don't show up on time, people start to look for you. And there's a lot of people that just don't have anybody in their life, that we don't have those kind of friends. And yet we haven't been that kind of friend to anybody else. We feel isolated, but we've isolated ourselves. And there's some people that are going to read this book. It's like, yeah, this is not for me. But there's a lot of people I know, because of the response of this that I'm getting from this book is like, oh my gosh, I really wanted to be this, and I've just wasted so much time. And I'm like, well, the book will tell you, let's start tomorrow. Let's get going again. You just need people in your life to help you, to nudge you, to hold you accountable, because this life, like I said, this life isn't meant to live alone. And yet there's a lot of us that have the fear of failure. We feel like we've just made too many mistakes. Isolation feels good because I'm tired of risking. I hurt too much, and I just rather live this quiet life. But yet inside they know that they have more in them and they want to do more. They just don't know how. And I'm hoping this book will help build a fire. In 80 pages, I'm not going to have my finger in your chest preaching at you. I don't do that. It's just think about this. Let's think about this. I'm just going to give you nudges. The reader's going to have to make the decisions to, like, you know what? He's right. He's right about this. And I'm going to make some changes and start pushing or getting back in touch with who I am and what makes me happy.
Just that act of setting a goal. And then I hear this in writing and in lots of areas of life where if you're trying to do something, tell someone else about it. Share that you're writing a book. Share that you're trying to get into shape. Anytime you're sharing that with someone, they're there to encourage you. And depending on the relationship, have some of that accountability. If other people know you're trying to make some improvement, generally, if they're good people in their life, they're going to support that and encourage it. And that just adds that extra layer of, I can do this even on the days when it's hard and it sucks and I don't really want to.
You've got to have the right people, because if you tell the wrong people, they don't want you to be successful, because now it makes them feel worse. So they're just going to do everything they can do to discourage you. So you just got to be careful who you tell. Sometimes it's risky, but just start telling a few people, and people who you know that would be happy if you were to accomplish even the smallest of things. A lot of times we set these big, lofty goals and we don't have any wins. But I think you start with small incremental goals. You start stacking up some wins. Then these start adding up into a direction that you want to go with your life. And that's how you get motivation, is you have some victory along the way instead of having this lofty goal. I just want to be a doctor. That's an 8 or 9 year trajectory to get there, but maybe you can start volunteering. Maybe you can start doing some different things or take an EMT, some things that are in the medical field, or even do an internship. Do something to get yourself moving in that direction. I think a lot of it is in goal setting. We make them too large, and then we're like, okay, I'll never be a doctor. Well, what have you done? Maybe that goal needs to be questioned. I'm not very good in math and I really hate science. Well, if you want to be a doctor, maybe you ought to think about doing something else, because you're going to need a lot of math and a lot of science to be a doctor. A lot of it is just needing some direction in goal setting, and someone to just, I talk about in the book, have someone score your goals, your passion, your education, your gifts, your talents, and just make a list of all those things and just say what you want to be. Is it just a good job, or does it really make you happy? Because a lot of times our goals are, that's what mom wanted me to do. That's what dad wanted me to do. That's what someone said I was. What makes you happy? What's in your heart? That's what you've got to figure out, because we've got to stop living our lives to make everybody else happy. And I'll share this, one of my favorite quotes. It says this: I spent all of my life climbing the ladder of success, only to find out when I got to the top, it was leaning against the wrong wall. If that doesn't just give you pause, we're climbing someone else's ladder. We're doing something just because of what other people thought. I'm so passionate about what's in your heart. What do you want to do? Because that's where you being happy and being fulfilled, doing something that makes you happy. You can take this to the extreme of like, well, my job right now, it pays the bills, but I'm not happy. Well, you have to answer that question for yourself. But a lot of people have just lived their lives because of what other people told them to do, and it didn't square with what we want, and we never said anything. And so we started doing stuff that, well, we just thought we'd make everybody else happy, but we didn't think about making ourselves happy.
Happiness being factored into the equation is important, and that can easily get lost among the decision-making process and the pressures from various things. I think that's definitely true. I see that with some of my students and with adults who are still trying to find that path. And hopefully, some of the stories and the nudges, as you said in the book, will help people reevaluate where they're at and see maybe where they want to go and what changes they want to start making, even if they're very small. New goals, new habits, even those small changes can really start shifting where we're going and what our ultimate path looks like.
And I start the book out very, very basic. I just said, on your life is a voyage. Do you have a map? And do you have a compass? And that's where I was talking about this lady at church. She goes, oh my gosh, I don't have a map and I don't have if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. We just live day to day, and we don't have a plan. We're on the defensive instead of being on the offensive. Let's make a plan. Let's chart a course, and we'll make some mid-course corrections, of course, as things happen. But just to live your life reacting to things that happen, a lot of folks are very discouraged because it just keeps happening to them, because they're just reacting instead of being intentional. And it doesn't mean that everything you try is going to work, but I'd rather have 3 out of 10 or 6 out of 10 work instead of 0 out of 10. Once you have some victories and once you accomplish a few things, now you start gathering momentum. I'll tell you, there's times in my life when I just had the desire beat right out of me. My divorce hit me hard. Bankruptcy hit me hard. Having someone say you have thyroid cancer, that hit me hard. I needed 2 surgeons to perform this 360 spinal fusion, and hoping that I could get off, that I could walk after this. I was nearly stuck all those times. But every time, it's just my desire to overcome it and to plot a path out of it. I just became stronger and stronger. And I say this phrase a lot: get good at surviving storms. Storms are going to come. If you watch the weather report, it's like you see these weather patterns come across the United States. They just keep coming. There's not one and done. They keep coming. And so you're either coming out of a storm, or you're in a storm, or a storm's coming. Get good at surviving storms. And don't just sit there and go, this one's really got me snowed in. Dig out. And if there's been a tornado come through, see what's under the rubble. There's always something to do. I think getting good at surviving storms is a phrase that came to me. It just was like, that's what my life has been about. I've had a lot of storms, but I'm pretty good at surviving them now, because I know what they look like, and I know I can take my experiences of surviving the ones in the past, and now I'm more prepared for the next one.
I think that's great advice, and that's a great skill to start developing. And we are already at the point to start wrapping up, but I wanted to remind our listeners that the book is called Estimated Time of Arrival by Lynn A. Blackwood. And Lynn, where can people find you and the book online to follow up?
Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or Outskirts Press is another way to do it. Or you can go to my website, lynnablackwood.com, and you'll have the other 3 books that are there, all 4 of them now. But yeah, Estimated Time of Revival, it came out 1st of March. I'm getting a lot of response from it. In fact, one of the endorsers that read with me as I was doing this goes, "Why didn't you write this 30 years ago?" Here's a very successful person that's writing this endorsement for me. And he goes, I wish you'd written this 30 years ago. Another person that endorsed this for me said, I'm going to give a book to every one of my children. It's that impactful. So not every page is going to dazzle you. And the book may not appeal to you if you feel like that you're got it kind of figured out and you're on a steady growth plan. This book is for those, and we all know people that are just kind of stuck and they're just kind of status quo. They're just living day to day, and you know that there's more in there. And my target audience is 20, 30, 40 years old, maybe 50-year-old. It was the waitresses and waiters that we saw in Atlanta that are waiting tables, but they should be in med school. Or they should have been an architect, or they should have been something else, but something happened and they got stuck. And they don't know how to get going again. So that's the whole where all this came from, was just trying to say, okay, let me see if I can help.
Well, and I hope it does help people. And I wanted to thank you for taking the time to chat with me today, and thank you for sharing about your book with our listeners.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much.